Welcome to Universal Joint Podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and my co-host Dustin Fuhs and I are recording this podcast on Sunday, September 20th, 2020. And, okay, Dustin, correct me if I'm wrong. It was July 24th of this year when we found out that Halloween Horror Nights was going to be canceled at both the Universal Orlando Resort as well as Universal Studios Hollywood, right?
Yep. When Universal came out and said they were canceling Halloween Horror Nights, they said they were canceling the event. They didn't say that they were canceling Halloween. So throughout the time period between July and September, there were some hints. And at the end of the day, they kind of changed things on us.
But the interesting thing is that they didn't change immediately. I mean, again, that was the story, and it was very sad. You know, we 30th anniversary of the event, and you know, and we got the the tribute store. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, the Halloween Horror Nights tribute store.
So that opened. So that was kind of our. It's like, here, we'll make a gesture. You can at least buy the merch, but we're not doing anything. And then this weird thing happened. Did you see the images? It was like last Friday or Saturday that showed up online, where literally these two frames had been pulled out from backstage and dropped in Production Central, that street that runs from the entrance of the park all the way back to the New York Public Library.
Yeah, when Universal came out and basically acknowledged that there were these things showing up, they were like, oh, it's okay. It's the world's most anticipated churro stand.
Well,
and it was hilarious because everyone was just like, oh, we're getting houses. And Universal over on the side being like, it's okay, guys. It's okay. It's going to be churros. You guys are getting excited for churros. I know you love churros, but it's just churros.
Well, but again, interesting you say that, because there was enough stuff online, and again, just people examining the clues, going, full Scully and Mulder, that Dwayne Bevel, from the Orlando Sentinel, their longtime theme park reporter, came out and actually made a special trip to the parks just to look at these frames, because it's like, wait a minute, those are the frames that they put the warning signs for the haunted houses on. The thing that very intense, uses fog, strobe, that sort of thing. And so, did this mean that Halloween Horror Nights was in fact coming back from the dead? And because remember, this is Universal we're talking about, and they have a strong tradition of, we killed the monster. I mean, remember 1931, the original Frankenstein. The doctor's at the top of the windmill, with his monster, and angry villagers set fire to the windmill and it burns down. So monster dead, right? It's like, no, 1935, Bride of Frankenstein, that turns out monster fell through the burning windmill into the flooded basement, and he survived. But end of Bride of Frankenstein. He pulls a switch and supposedly blows up, Dr. Frankenstein's lab and the monster and his bride are dead. And it's like, nope. But Son of Frankenstein, we find the monsters come with those bodies, but still alive come with those bodies in the Frankenstein family crypt. And there were 5 more Universal monster movies. 1942's Ghost of Frankenstein all the way through to 1948's Abbott and Costello Meets Frankenstein, which, by the way, is a really good movie. If you haven't seen that in a while, really good movie. But he dies. He dies at the end of every one of these. He's been encased in ice. He's been smothered in sulfur. He sinks in quicksand. And he comes back. So why is it that, given that, that this is how the Universal Classic Monsters exist, why is it that we should expect, when they say, oh, no Halloween Horror Night this year, that why should we believe them? If the monsters don't die, the event doesn't die. And sure enough, this Friday morning, suddenly we get word that there are 2 mazes open. And what did you discover online, Dustin?
So they did reservations for premium annual pass holders for the first day. So the first day was you had to be a pass holder to get access to the 2 houses. Now I do want to be as honest as possible. Universal is not calling this Halloween Horror Nights. This is a Halloween haunted house. Some have called it HHN 29.5. I'm just a fan because any time that you can have a Halloween Horror Nights during the day, it's great. You get different senses. So what we found was when folks had the chance to go online to get their reservations, things sold out immediately. Immediately. Okay. Everybody wanted to be there because it was Halloween Horror Nights.
Okay. Just interrupt for a sec here, though.
Sure.
So again, Friday first day, but even before the premium pass holders got access, it was the Universal team members that morning, right? Who were
yes,
actually going in and checking out the mazes, or excuse me, the houses.
Yeah, and I was really impressed with the team member preview and the fact that we didn't really get a lot of spoilers. The team members that went through had the opportunity to see everything that the creative department and their fellow team members have been creating for the last number of months and really enjoyed it. Now, let's really think about the way that this process went out. So they had the Friday morning with the team members, then they went out and allowed the annual pass holders the opportunity to go through the houses. The two houses that they brought online were the Universal Monsters, The Bride of Frankenstein Lives, which is one of Universal Pictures' most notorious monsters, and is a basic, idea that Universal has done over the years. They'll bring a property that everyone loves and they'll do a house about it. Then they brought The Revenge of the Tooth Fairy, which is an original story that uncovers the dark ritual behind the innocent childhood tradition of, the Tooth Fairy coming in, taking your teeth, and then giving you money. Things were really interesting when you actually set foot inside of the houses, though, because you had the ability for these team members and characters and folks who were all into creating this environment, this haunted house. And in a world where we are dealing with COVID-19 and social distancing and precautions being put out there so that way everyone is being safe, they did it right. They had the ability to bring a large number of guests through houses and actually had all of the characters and performers protected because they put plexiglass in a lot of the scaring areas. Now, this did give away a couple of the scares because you would look around and be like, hey, look, there's a plexiglass wall. I'm pretty sure something's going to jump at me. But they also played around with the idea of pulsing, which when you're going through a maze, traditionally, you would have everyone in front of you getting scared and everyone behind you getting scared, and there's a chance that you could miss a real scare.
Okay, now speaking of pulsing through, you had discovered something interesting about how, for example, for the team members who are operating these two houses, how they're identifying the individual groups. Can you talk a little bit about the glow sticks?
Yeah, glow sticks. It was great. The fact that you had the ability to go through a house and have the performers and everyone around you know where one group ended and the next group began basically allowed for the characters to time their scares. The original plan was to use glow sticks. And it looks like, from what we're hearing out of the houses today, they were utilizing glow sticks in the morning and then stopped in the afternoon. It looks like they didn't use them for both houses, which shows me that maybe there's a difference of traffic flow in Tooth Fairy versus Bride of Frankenstein, where they can kind of hide the pulsars, which are basically the team members in the house, and have them go through with their, glow up orange lights. Okay,
now can we talk a little bit about the actual physical setup of some of these houses? Because face it, in much the same way as, we go to our our local Target or the post office and that sort of thing, we now deal with a plexiglass screen that separates us from either the clerk who's working the cash register or the gentleman who's taking your package. And we've got a lot of those as well in these houses, right? The plexiglass barriers.
Yeah, and in a 2020 environment, when you're dealing with COVID-19 and social distancing, things like this with the plexiglass and with the pulsing, it's all part of the experience. Now, I'm assuming that with the way that the crowds are going through these houses, they're getting psyched up knowing that there is plexiglass, and that means there's going to be a scare or some screen or something being utilized to set the environment. Well, the characters that are in these houses, they understand that as well. That means that your focus as a guest is on something, and they can go behind and possibly find a different way to scare you. It's all about anticipation and knowing that the characters that are there, they're there to have fun, and they're going to take their job incredibly seriously.
All right. And again, you've been following. Obviously, again, they're not allowing people to film inside of these houses yet, but you've seen a couple of reviews so far, and as I understand it, the legend of the Tooth Fairy is steampunk themed. On the other hand, Bride of Frankenstein Lives. Is this the classic Bride of Frankenstein? I mean, what is this about?
Yeah, it looks like it is typical Universal creative with the Halloween Horror Nights-esque, where they find a property and then delve into it in order to have a beginning, middle, and an end within every maze and every adventure. And it looks like that's what's going on. Now, keep in mind, we haven't been able to go through this house. There is no video allowed. They haven't really produced any promotional photos. There's nothing that we can really say outside of hearing secondhand information from people who have just got out of the houses and giving their reviews. I know for a fact that as soon as people get that opportunity to go through, they're going to be in a different level because they are so excited to get into a Halloween Horror Nights-esque environment. Whether or not it is, during the day or at nighttime, it's all going to be exactly what Universal wants. And let's be honest, the fact that these two houses sold out with their virtual queues during a pandemic is amazing. Folks were waiting at 7 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning in order to get inside the gates and get their virtual queue. That's incredible. You don't see that right now because we're in a different world right now. We don't know what's going on. Halloween's been canceled. The holidays have been canceled. But yet you still have folks who are huge fans of Halloween Horror Nights that are getting out there and saying, you know what? Be as safe as you want to. We will adhere to any policy that you can. We'll wear face coverings. We'll social distance. That's all fine. We just want to have fun again. And I think that's a success for Universal.
Yeah, and it's worth noting here that, again, on Saturday, they went to capacity on both Universal Studios Florida as well as Islands and Volcano Bay. And I think you were mentioning, as we were getting ready to record here, that as of this morning at 9:30 on Sunday, they were also at capacity?
Yeah, the fact that something like this could hit capacity, not just, for guests who are walking up. No, they had signs out front when you were driving into the theme parks telling you that the haunted houses were already at capacity. This sets expectations that, if you're thinking of just going to the parks just for the haunted houses, we're good. We're at capacity. But the fact that this happened during a time period that we are in a pandemic and people were worried about all these different elements that went through, this is awesome. There were difference of capacities. So when people came into the parks and they would get their virtual pass, they would go and do other things. And then maybe later on in the day, Universal will bring out more capacity. I've seen videos of folks getting into the line and it's crazy long, and then they'll come into the line a little bit later on and there's, it's almost a walk-on. this is what happens during a test and adjust phase, especially for an event like this that, we're kind of trying something new. We're not reinventing the wheel, but it's pretty darn close. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen next after this weekend.
Okay. Well, all right. And, okay, let's talk operations here.
Sure.
Okay, first and foremost, it's one thing when Halloween Horror Nights is an after-hours hard ticket, and the assumption is, the entire park has been reset, and, you've got your street, streetmosphere performers and the like. What's different about this is they're doing this during the day when, other guests who, who've already, are staying on property in hotels and that sort of thing, folks who aren't necessarily familiar with a Halloween horror event. And in fact, for me, what was intriguing is they put out additional signage stressing that the Halloween horror houses are not recommended for children under 13, that they are very intense, with the hope that some poor family that managed to score reservations to Rise of Frank, or it's going to be the Bride Frankenstein Lives, or Legend of the Tooth Fairy isn't just going up the street like, oh well, we just finished doing Despicable Me, Minion, Mayhem. Let's take the kids into this looks like it'll be fun. As
we're going to Diagon Alley, going around to Simpsons, going around, because as you said, typically you're closing off the event for an adult or 13 plus thing. So you'll have the blood and gore all over the place. Now, the one thing that we found was that they still have the sights and sounds of Halloween Horror Nights, but a little bit more hidden in plain sight, like the merch carts and the food stalls.
Well, yeah, and speaking of which, again, we were talking about how they were making fun of us earlier. It's like churros. You're getting excited about churros, but on Friday when the menu came up, I again, I'm sitting in the car and watching the photos blip up on Twitter where it's effective the signage that read Franken fried chicken and funnel brains, which is, I guess, it's a fried chicken topped funnel cake with a berry glaze and a powdered sugar.
Yeah, it's a strawberry sauce with maple mayo and powdered sugar. To be honest, it looks really gross, but as soon as you dive into it, the flavors just work.
Well, likewise, they also have electrified skin and guts, which, as it turns out, are pork rind nachos with spiced ground beef and scallions. Don't have any information about what actually is involved with a twisted tater with blood and guts, or for that matter, a Frankencoils. But I got to assume it's something similar along those lines, where food that you know and love.
Yeah, it looks like it's a chili cheese sauce. But if you're a family just walking through and you're like, I'm feeling a little peckish right now, I think we should go and get. What is this?
Yeah,
and it's
also, let's be honest here, and I applaud those brave souls on Friday morning that were digging right into their fried funnel cake brain, just sort of like that's 10 o'clock in the morning. That's a little hard for me to get into. All right.
Yep.
But also remember, because they've opened up these two haunted houses in the production central that fronts free to the park, that it's kind of like, it's a ripple effect. It's, for example, folks who work in themed entertainment will tell you, like, for example, when you build a giant e-ticket attraction, you then have to go, okay, so we need for this side of the park to double our capacity for restrooms because we're going to have more people over on this side. So conversely, with these two houses here, Universal felt that they had to create, I guess for their parks they're calling them the U-Rest zones. These are the places where guests can step away for a few moments and take off their masks and that sort of thing. So there's that park in the New York area that's just in front of the Tribute store. and near the Mummy, just across from Macy's, that I guess has been designated as the new U-Rest for the folks who are in the area to go to these two mazes. Also, I was really delighted to hear that Finnegan's has been reopened. Now, mind you, it's Finnegan's with social distancing, but just figuring that with this many more people in the area, we probably need to give them some place to get a drink, and that's. I'm hoping you can still get the soda bread there, because that was really good stuff.
Oh, it was amazing. You like the butter with the Universal logo on it? Oh,
Again, it's butter. But all right. But here's where it gets intriguing, though. So, okay, we've got our U-Rest area opening in the park. We've got Finnegan's opening, right next door to it to give people an additional place to get a drink in. But then, deep in the park, we get Cafe La Bamba opens with a skeleton bar theme. And you were talking about you'd seen some photos of that.
Yeah, and what's cool with this dining location, so typically it is Cafe La Bamba, it's now the Skeleton Bar. Because it is not a house, people can go through it and video and do whatever they want to. They've got a really cool menu with the bloody charred tandoori skewer, the screaming for s'mores fries, frozen candy corn, all that other stuff. But the thing that really got us was that it's not close to the other two houses. So does this mean that in the great scheme of things, that they're actually going to be doing something on the other side of the park?
Well, yeah. Okay. Well, what Dustin is talking about is there have been all sorts of rumors online that on the heels of the success of the opening of Bride of Frankenstein Lives and the Legend of the Tooth Fairy, that supposedly, again, remember, we're reporting or recording this show on September 20th, and that's a good 5 and 6 weeks before Halloween is up. And the rumors out there are that we're going to see, and remember, when the news broke in the middle of July that there was going to be no Halloween Horror Night this year, Universal, they begin designing these things a full 3 months. For example, the 2020 shows, or the houses for 2020 were actually 3 months into development when the 2019 edition of Halloween Horror Night, debuted, early September of last year. So these were well underway. So, when Universal decided to pull the plug. So, again, with Cafe La Bamba Skeleton Bar opening up in the middle of the park, that suggests that, again, because they were looking for an additional venue for folks to be able to get a drink and that sort of thing, that maybe we're going to see a couple of houses open in that immediate vicinity. But you were suggesting from what you'd learned, Dustin, that not necessarily immediately, right? Or
yeah, so it looks like what's going on is, as you were saying, there are houses that were in development. There was merchandise that was purchased that people, had to design T-shirts and, mugs and all this other stuff. Well, those are just sitting in a warehouse somewhere and being anticipated. Be like, okay, is there a chance that we can sell this? Well, one of the big rumors flying around is that there was going to be a huge push for Beetlejuice this year. So is there a possibility that Beetlejuice will be joining this Halloween Horror Nights-esque thing with a house or a maze in the next couple of weeks? Because if they've already designed it and possibly built it, it would make sense to utilize the social distancing success that is going on right now and possibly do something else. The other design or other property that we're hearing is the icons. Now, I don't know whether or not they will want to use that for a non-Halloween Horror Nights year, knowing that next year is still going to be the 30th anniversary of Halloween Horror Nights. But I could see them bringing as many of these online as possible because, let's see it. Like, it's a success. So if they have the merchandise, they have the design, they've already built it, why not see what will happen? But we still have no idea whatsoever what will happen, because Universal hasn't confirmed whether or not this will happen for multiple weeks or even next week. We don't know. Hey guys, it's Dustin from the future. As I'm editing this podcast that Jim and I recorded on September the 20th, I realized that things can change overnight. And that's exactly what happened. On September 22nd, Universal put out a press release that talked about the experiences that will be coming to Universal Orlando starting the weekend of September 26th and 27th, and then daily through from October 3rd until November the 1st. We know that this is out there. We have the press release. We are going to be discussing how this will affect Halloween and what to look forward to in Universal Orlando, but we're going to do that on the next show. So I just wanted to stop in the middle of this to let you guys know we recorded this 2 days before Universal brought out the press release. We do know that it's here. We are incredibly excited to talk about it on the next show. Now back to Dustin and Jim from 2 days ago, which is actually 3 days ago.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Got it. And also, in addition to the houses, we just also had another Halloween-related activity debut at Universal Studios Florida that sends guests all the way around the park. Do you want to talk about the Scarecrow Stalk?
So the Scarecrow Stalk is at Universal Studios Florida. It is a scavenger hunt that sends guests to find unique scarecrows and collect stamps at 13 retail locations throughout the park. As soon as you complete said scavenger hunt, you get a chance to go and get a Halloween treat. Pretty cool stuff. The 13 locations are actually on a pamphlet that you can get at the Universal Studios store or any of the retail locations within this area. It is really cool because it takes you into stores that usually you don't have that opportunity to go into, like SpongeBob StorePants or Shrek's Yield souvenir shop. Also really gets some fun opportunities to go into places like Men in Black gear shop and the Five and Dime. So definitely a fun experience. And let's be honest, anything that you can do at a theme park for free and get candy, even better.
All right. Speaking of candy-related stuff at the parks, the Toothsomes, the Chocolate Emporium, and I want to get the whole name right, Savory Kitchen Feast. Again, one of these retail / entertainment things. I mean, when it debuted at the resort a couple of years back, people are excited about, the characters that seem to live at Toothsomes, and the cast has expanded just recently. Do you want to talk about Latte?
Yeah, Latte the dog. So guests can now meet Latte right out in front of the Toothsome Chocolate Emporium. Latte is a dynamic spot dog robot that was developed by Boston Dynamics. So it's a steampunk-inspired mechanical dog and is the latest invention of the restaurant's founder, Penelope, and her trusty companion, Jacques. So they do shows intermittently between 4 and 6 daily. It's actually really cool. It's kind of cute. They have some things that dogs normally do, sit, stay, speak, that kind of thing. But the design of Latte the dog is so impressive. It is just so cute. But they've done a really cool partnership between the inside of Toothsomes, where they created a new milkshake called Latte's Latte. And it's a milkshake that's made with coffee, ice cream, and espresso, then topped with fresh whipped cream, dark chocolate, a biscotti, and chocolate-covered espresso beans.
Well, they don't miss a trick, do they? But okay, so again, that's outside in City Walk. So again, if you show up and aren't able to score your reservations for Bride of Frankenstein, or well, the downside is if they're going clean by 9:30. I don't know if you really want to hang around till 4 in the afternoon to see the robot dog, but I'm just saying that there's something else to see there. If on the other hand you like technology and as opposed to fast-moving robot dogs, you want to see something slow-moving. Did you see where they were doing they refer to it as the passage? What is it? Yes, the passage and clearance test over at the coaster, which we're not supposed to call the Velocicoaster, but the Velocicoaster over at Islands of Adventure in the soon-to-be renamed Jurassic World section of the park. It just what's funny for me is that I remember when again, I'm old. I remember when these sorts of tests were done where they literally, the idea is they send the coaster around the entire track with this elaborate frame on the outside that is supposed to be the maximum reach of a human being sitting inside of this attraction, with the notion that if a ridiculously tall person stuck their arms out, this would be, as far as they could reach. And the idea is you send the coaster slowly around the track to determine that all props, all story elements, all set pieces, aren't within that person's theoretical reach. And I just remember, for example, when Disney did this very same thing with Expedition Everest, there was no frame and they did not move slowly. They just put a really flimsy 2x4 in the front seat and sent it through. And it was just one of these things where it's like, okay, the 2x4 came back splintered. It's like, all right, we should probably find out where it hit. Somebody want to go through the track and look for splintered 2x4? So it's just kind of interesting that, in this amount of time, we now have gone from the full speed test to the very slow passage. By the way, that test got a little complicated because as they were doing it, the Osprey came back.
They're back, Mr. and Mrs. Osprey.
Yeah, well, it was only one that I saw them take a picture of, so it'll be, I don't know if, they're back over from Dr. Phillips' school about, the neighborhood is not as nice as we thought it would be, and we really want to come back here, and, are they going to chase us away again? So, long story short, folks, this story is not over yet. And speaking of Jurassic World related stories, just this Friday on Netflix, brand new animated series Camp Cretaceous debuted. Which kind of intriguing. The gimmick of the show is it's basically set before, during, and after the first Jurassic World movie. The conceit is that they're just about to open a brand new area at the Jurassic World theme park that's basically on the back of the island. It's a camp for teens. And 5 lucky kids have showed up to be able to sort of test drive this camp that at full build out will have places for 500 teens to hang out and play and that sort of thing. And again, it's because it happens before, during, and after Jurassic World, something goes horribly wrong. And I don't want to give too much away, but again, if you've seen the original Jurassic World, you know what went wrong. But the interesting thing is this so clearly ends in a way to set up season 2. And I guess for me, the problem is that there is, anyone who's seen Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, there's a ticking clock. It's just sort of like, well, these kids are on the island, and should we try and go rescue them? It's like the volcano. Does anybody notice the volcano? So
yeah, it's not just a nice looking backdrop for a postcard. It's kind of active.
Yeah, so going to be interesting to see where they go with season 2. But I got to tell you, given that Netflix quite proudly listed, yesterday afternoon when I'm watching this thing, that this was the number 2 downloaded program in the U.S., all of the U.S. yesterday. So it's clearly a huge success right out of the box. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly we get season 2 of Camp Cretaceous. Nicely done, done in CG. It gets a little preachy at point. There's a lot of we're friends and we help each other in team building, and but at the same time it's preachy and bloodless because it's a show that's aimed at kids. So when the Indominus Rex shows up, he eats a couple of people, but he does it off camera, and evidently he uses a napkin because you never see any blood. But yeah, that's if you've got a 10-year-old who's very much into the Jurassic Park movies, definitely check this out. But I guess this time next year when we finally get our new coaster open, it'll be interesting to see how much Camp Cretaceous merch actually shows up at over at Jurassic World and Islands. And speaking of merch, in a few minutes we're going to talk about some merch that just showed up as part of a Halloween celebration at Universal Studios Japan.
Introducing Meta Ray-Ban Display, the world's most advanced AI glasses. With a full color display built into the lens of the glasses, it's there when you need it and gone when you don't. Send and receive messages, translate or caption live conversations, collaborate with Meta AI, and more. Be one of the first to try Meta Ray-Ban Display. Visit meta.com/Meta Ray-Ban Display to book a demo and find your pair.
Adobe Acrobat Studio, so brand new. Show me all the things PDFs can do. Do your work with ease and speed. PDF Spaces is all you need. Do hours of research in an instant with key insights from an AI assistant. Pick a template with a click. Now your prezzo looks super slick. Close that deal? Yeah, you won. Do that, doing that, did that, done. Now you can do that with Acrobat. Now you can do that with the all-new Acrobat. It's time to do your best work with the all-new Adobe Acrobat Studio.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana.
And we're back. Okay, but again, Dustin, it's not really a surprise that the Universal parks around the world are also celebrating Halloween this year.
Yeah, absolutely. We know ahead of Halloween that folks around the world, they celebrate Halloween differently. Mm-hmm. So a ghost tour or a haunted house in Universal Studios Florida and Hollywood will definitely look different in Japan because of just the way that Halloween is celebrated and observed in different parts around the world.
Yeah, and remember that that because of different cultures take on the supernatural, that sort of thing. I mean, for example, in Japan, in fact, what's kind of interesting at Universal Studios Japan is they've opted to go the cuter version of the holiday. This is more about for example, going into the parks and encountering Elmo or Hello Kitty or Snoopy dressed up for Halloween, and then finding a COVID safe way to get your socially distanced selfie. But what's kind of interesting is, as part of this event at Universal Studios Japan, has put out a line of Casper merch. And I don't know if you remember that Universal actually made a Casper movie. In fact, this year is the 25th anniversary of it coming out. It debuted in May of 1995.
Oh, I loved this movie. This
Really?
movie, absolutely. First off, the fact that you got Christina Ricci, Bill Pullman, which Bill Pullman, underrated actor. When you look at how many features, you can tell that he wasn't he the president of the U.S. at one point. He was in Independence Day. He's just a man of many talents. And what I really loved about Casper was the fact that they had Brad Garrett as one of the voices, I believe, of one of the ghosts, and they had both the animated version of Casper, and then at the end they brought what's his name from Final Destination, the kid, Devon Sawa, to be the human version of Casper. You know, classic stuff. If you really want the true 90s version of, a scary movie, go and watch Casper from 1995. You'll enjoy it.
Well, again, we're going to remember that they were trying to hit that sweet spot, between. In fact, it's well, the other thing to remember here is that May of 1995. This is exactly 2 years after the original Jurassic Park had opened in theaters and made, buku bucks. I want to say Universal spent $63 million to make the thing, and it wound up, if you factor in the domestic and international run, it made, I want to say, $912 million, which, that it was the first film to sell more than 500 million worth of tickets overseas. So Universal was thrilled. They wanted a similar effects-filled film that could play to a family audience, and so this is why they developed Casper the way they did, and they spent big bucks. It wasn't the $63 million that they spent on Jurassic Park, but it was $55. It would, and in a lot of ways, you mentioned Brad Garrett's ghost character, I think Fatso, but all of those the ghosts were done in CG, so it was kind of it made sense as a follow-up project to Jurassic Park, as a heavily CG, heavily used effects. It didn't do quite as well as Jurassic Park did. That it, I want to say, did 100 million and change stateside, 187 overseas, so just south of $300 million. So it was a financial success for the studio, but the problem was the yardstick was, we didn't make 900 million. But at the same time, it was the 8th highest grossing film for the year. Only sold 76 million fewer tickets than Toy Story, which was, and again, because that was an all CG film, that was all that people could talk about. But Universal thought, okay, well, sort of a franchise, let's try. So there were the 2 direct-to-video sequels. We had 1997's Casper: Spirited Beginning, 1998's Casper Meets Wendy, which, for all of you Lizzie McGuire fans out there, this was one of the very first times that Hilary Duff was on camera. She played Wendy. And Simon Wells, one of the gentlemen who directed, I am blanking the name of it, the first DreamWorks, Prince of Egypt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, so he, Simon is one of these guys who goes back and forth between animation and live action. In fact, you may remember his version of The Time Machine, a couple of years back. But Simon wrote a sequel. He was ready to direct it. But then in July of 2000, word came down that Universal had pulled the plug on the project. There were 2 reasons listed. One was that I guess the directed video sequels Hadn't quite pulled the numbers that Universal wanted. And the other thing is, you'd mentioned at the top there, Christina Ricci. By this point, Christina had appeared in 1998's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which was directed by Terry Gilliam. And then the following year, she appeared in Sleepy Hollow, which was directed by Tim Burton. Kind of interesting, in both of these projects, she co-starred with Johnny Depp. But at this point, Christina began to think of herself as an actress who appears in movies for adults, which, by the way, is different than adult films. Okay, want to stress that. So she just didn't want to go back and do the, play the role of Cat Harvey at that point. And evidently that was the idea. They wanted, her as the name to come back, and when she didn't come back, it was, okay, we're not going to go forward with Casper the film. Now, what's kind of interesting here is Jurassic Park. Even as the Jurassic Park, Michael Crichton's 1990s book was being adapted to be, the movie that came out in the summer of 1993. On a parallel track, Universal Creative was already working on Jurassic Park the Ride, which is how it was able to open on the lower lot of Universal Studios Hollywood by the summer of 1996. And then we got the Jurassic Park The Land and Jurassic Park River Adventure opening at IOA in 99, and then finally the Japan version opening 2 years later in March of 2001. And again, remember that, that because Universal thought Casper was going to be a Jurassic Park size hit, they also began work on a Casper ride. And, to give Universal creative credit, they were kind of riding the high of having done Men in Black Alien Attack at that point, and had done a big interactive effects-filled attraction. And so the thinking was, ooh, let's do another one of those. And so Casper, the Casper ride, was going to be Universal's answer to Disney's Haunted Mansion. The idea is you were going to go to Whipstaff Manor, which had been introduced in the first film, but instead of a doom buggy, your ride vehicle in this attraction
was the bed, wasn't it?
Was going to be, the 4-poster bed.
Oh, that's great.
But now where this gets cool is that each, so the idea is it's a bed with seating for 4.
Yep.
But everybody is able from their seat to touch the post on their side of the bed. And that's a crucial part of this ride because it's basically a joystick. And what would happen at various points in this ride, like for example, say in the Haunted Mansion, you ride by the endless hallway. On the Casper ride, you'd go up the endless hallway, and if you came to a door, if say 3 of you on the ride vehicle, leaned your post in that direction, the vehicle would actually go into the room and you'd have an experience, and then you'd eventually come out of that room and go back to the main track. The idea was it was going to be an interactive attraction with these various rooms that you could opt in and out of, so that every time you rode this ride, if you were with a different group of people who had, and again, you could go to different parts of this mansion. And I mean, mind you, because of the branching track and the different showrooms and that sort of thing, it was going to be a giant show building. Very expensive,
especially
to build.
Like when you're looking at a choose your own adventure style, where you have multiple ride vehicles going at the same time. It's not like you're at the Jungle Cruise experience that was at Disney Quest, where you were in front of a screen and everyone had their own interactive paddle. You could have, in fact, gone into any of these different rooms at any given point, and this was before trackless technology. So there was a lot of tech that would have to have worked for this. When you're talking about this, I would have loved to have seen the version in the 90s that this would have come out. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, it would have been, but again, it was just, from Universal's side of the fence, it was one of these things where they added up what the ticket sales had been for the theatrical release, for how many VHSs they had sold for Spirited Beginning and Casper Meets Wendy. It wasn't the magic number, and especially these days at Universal, it is all about the show me exactly how much merch we've sold. Show me all the financials, which is why for example Universal Beijing, or for that matter, Epic Universe is all about tried and true IPs. Though again, I still am fascinated by the whole Universal Classic Monsters Land. I still will be surprised if that does in fact get built, because it's ironic to me because they have tried so many times now to do the reboots. And yes, just in this past year we've had the Elizabeth Moss Invisible Man, and we've got that yet another version of the Wolfman being prepped. But this is not Transylvania. These are modern updates of these things, and I don't know if I just don't know if people are willing. It's like, oh, honey, look, a European village from the 1930s. Let's take the kids in there.
Well, here's my question: does something like this, which is the Halloween Horror Nights Light haunted houses, not really an official Halloween Horror Nights, but still something, scary and characters, that kind of thing. Does this change the conversation in-house for the creatives going forward on Epic Universe, knowing that people are really looking forward to a Halloween event? So much so that they're actually lining up at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, park hitting capacity, just because of something like this.
Well, forgive me for saying this, but it's really easy to sell Halloween in, say, September and October. May, June. That's the thing. I don't know if necessarily the Universal Monster, a land entirely dedicated to Universal Monsters, will have that sort of appeal, in the heat of, especially in the heat of summer of Florida, because it's, it's kind of like if you go to the German pavilion at Epcot, it's just sort of, the people look so much more happy. The cast members who work there in their lederhosen, when it's October and November, it's a little cool in Florida.
Yep.
You're there in July and August, and they're just, like, I'm going to get myself an oversized beer. Just sort of, I don't know. I think there are things that don't necessarily work in summer in Florida that on the other hand, when there's a little bit of, a bite in the air, even in Florida, it's like, why, yes, I want some mulled apple cider, or I want, a hot chocolate with a candy cane sticking out of it. There are seasonal appropriate things that work. And I just, that's, I guess, my concern is that you build a land that I know that'll work, from September to October, but February, March, not so sure.
Unless they do it all inside.
Well, yeah, but even then,
because then they can control the atmosphere, almost like the what is it, the Little Mermaid show building that's overseas at the Disney parks. And when you go in and you've got the ability to basically transform not only the ambiance, but you can control the temperature. So being able to sell that hot chocolate.
Yeah, but at the same time, remember that it's easy to get people through the door when it's Ariel. It's the Little Mermaid. It's a character that modern theme park goers know. That's the thing. Do theme park goers? It's, oh my God, it's a guy dressed as Bela Lugosi.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like, I don't know. So anyway, okay, so. Folks, we Dustin and I would, speaking of Halloween Horror Night and horror related stuff, we would love to hear what, if you've been lucky enough to be among the few to get in for the opening weekend of the Not Halloween Horror Night. We'd love to hear your impressions of the houses and how you felt Universal did. So if you want to reach out, feel free. We'll share your stories. Dustin, on the other hand, while we're waiting on the next show, what's going on with the We Love Theme Park stuff?
Yep, We Like Theme Parks is still going on. Chris, Mark, and Miriam are doing a great job holding down the fort, creating some great content for theme park fans. We've also got stepstomagic.com. That's Disney Universal trip planning, top 10 lists, all that other fun stuff. Jill and I have actually created our new website, wifiadventures.com, which is basically trip reports and top 10s and fun facts about, things that we do while we are traveling. So that's over at wifiadventures.com. And that's basically about it for me. But you're, 27, 28 podcasts at this point?
Well, 6, I think. Let's see. We got Disney Dish with Len Testo. We got Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor. We got Looking at Lucasfilm with Dan Z. We got Marvel Us Disney that I do with Aaron Adams, the gentleman who wades into these podcasts and tries to get me to stop saying and all the time. Let's see, what else? We also have, well, of course, the podcast you're listening to now. In addition, we have I Want That with Shelley Valladolid, who hoping to get a new show out the gate here. Shelley's been having some health issues, but she's feeling better, so hopefully this will be the week we'll get a new show going. Tell you what, folks, if you could do Dustin and I a favor and head over to iTunes and rate and recommend not only Universal Joint, but likewise We Like Theme Parks. That gets us extra ears and eyeballs. Likewise, if you really, really, really like what you heard here today, if you head over to Bandcamp and subscribe, that would be incredibly helpful. Let's see, what else? If folks are looking to follow you on social media, Dustin, where might they look?
Yeah, I'm on Pinterest at Steps to Magic, Instagram, Twitter, all that other fun stuff.
Got it. Okay. And Nancy wants me to remind you that on Twitter and Instagram we are Jim Hill Media, and I want to say it on Facebook we're Jim Hill Media News.
Yes.
And all right, I guess that will do it for this week, folks. Thank you so much for listening. And like I said, if you were lucky enough to get into Universal Studios Florida and have yourself a big bowl of fried funnel cake brains, if you want to share, maybe keep the pictures to yourself, but we'd love to hear about what they tasted like. Okay, so